Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome tonight on a Friday night for a change, the qualifying watch-along for another Grand Prix in 2021. Of course, this weekend, it is the 2021 British Grand Prix at Silverstone with a packed crowd at the Silverstone track, ready for what is going to be a very exciting session, especially considering we've only had an hour's running so far this weekend. And immediately, we're into some very important running for the weekend because, of course, the results of qualifying will set the grid for the sprint qualifying race tomorrow, and then the results of the sprint qualifying race will set the grid for the race on Sunday. So this is a very important session. I feel as though if a certain team or driver gets it massively wrong in this session, it really could affect them for the entire weekend. So this is a massive session. It absolutely is. And again, because of only 1 hour's running we've had so far, I think it will allow a more exciting, unpredictable session, because even though we saw a certain pattern, say, emerging in practice one, Max Verstappen, for example, looking very quick, Mercedes not that quick, Ferrari looking decent, so McLaren as well, won't necessarily finish that way. And also, Aston Martin looked decent. So, you know, again, going into the session, because of the lack of running so far, I think we are in for a very unpredictable weekend. And this session, I think, will be pretty exciting, as normally qualifying does tend to be pretty exciting. And you could argue qualifying is the highlight of a Grand Prix weekend sometimes. And I just want to say, before we get into the stream, hopefully you guys are doing well on what is a very hot Friday night in my part of the UK. And very hot as well it is at the circuit. I mean, it won't be as hot now as it was earlier on at the circuit. So that will be a benefit for certain teams who struggle with overheating. I think Mercedes are definitely one of those teams who, when it's hotter, they don't seem to do as well or be as strong as when it's a bit cooler, as it is at the circuit right now. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, and hopefully having the best Friday you could possibly be having, or Saturday even, if it is Saturday in your part of the world, if you're in, Asia or Australia, New Zealand, that part of the world. Yeah, hopefully having as best a day as you possibly could be having. But if you did not join us for the Practice 1 watch-along, which was earlier on, about 3 hours ago now, then I'll now take you through the results of the session. And in certain parts of the results, it was kind of what we're used to as of late, but there are also some surprises in there. So here are the results of Max Verstappen, quickest by almost 0.8 of a second. An absolutely stunning lap from Max Verstappen, and as I'll get into in a moment, he has to be the clear favourite for pole. The form is, he's so in form right now. All the momentum is with him, and he's just supremely confident. This might be the highest point of confidence he's probably ever accomplished in his entire life right now. That's just how quick he is in that Red Bull. Lando Norris second. Very impressive from Norris, because that time was set on the medium compound tyre, when Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas and Sainz did their times on soft. So watch out for Norris today, because he might do what he did, for example, at the Red Bull Ring, especially in that second race, which was the Austrian Grand Prix. He very well could be second, third, fourth. You never know. I mean, in qualifying as of late, he's been stunningly quick. The McLaren has improved its speed over a single lap. It's still not quite there overall, because Daniel Ricciardo does tend to struggle a bit over a single lap still. So it's not quite there yet, the McLaren over a single lap overall, but Norris over a single lap in the last few races especially has been so strong, and wouldn't be surprised if he was right up there again. Hamilton third, Leclerc fourth, Bottas fifth and Sainz in sixth. It looks as though from that Mercedes and Ferrari are about equal. I don't think it will finish that way. I do think Mercedes will end up being quicker, but I don't think it'll be, a massive gap. I still think Ferrari will be in there somewhere, and, in there as well with Lando Norris. But I think, as we'll get onto in a moment, with Mercedes, they are definitely nowhere near as strong as I thought they would be at this Grand Prix so far this weekend, because, to be 0.8 of a second slower than Max Verstappen after just practice one, and I know, yes, it's only practice, but considering in qualifying coming up now, being so soon, a very important session, they didn't really have the opportunity to conserve fuel or engine power or anything like that. So I don't think Mercedes were necessarily sandbagging in practice. And I have to say again, that pace difference is pretty worrying. And again, worrying that Norris was able to finish ahead of both Mercedes on the medium. Very worrying indeed, even though I do think the medium compound tyre is definitely a much better tyre for this track than the soft tyre is, especially when we get into a race distance. So, I think Mercedes, at the minute, it looks as though it's going to be second and third at best, as we'll get into in a moment. And then after that top six, it's Vettel, Perez, Ricciardo, and Ocon. And then the rest of the order: Gasly, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, Stroll, Mazepin, and Russell down in 20th position. But now let's get into the teams and how I think they'll get on. So first off, Mercedes. And yeah, Mercedes are not looking anywhere near as strong as I thought they would. I didn't think necessarily they would be topping the charts and be comfortable looking. I didn't think it would be like that, but I thought if, say, Max Verstappen was in P1, I didn't think it would be 0.8 of a second. I thought maybe 0.3 at most, and it's at least double that. So yeah, Mercedes are not looking good coming into this session. Also, if you look at the onboard comparison of Verstappen and the lap of Hamilton from practice one, which I did see on Sky F1 in between the sessions, the Red Bull just looks more comfortable, just looks more drivable than the Mercedes car is. The Mercedes car is still good, good compared to most cars out there on the track, but compared to the Red Bull, it just doesn't look as drivable as what Max Verstappen has. It's still on the exit of the slower corners, it's still a bit twitchy on the exit. I think they do have good speed in the slower speed corners. It's just on the exit of those corners, they're not quite releasing as well as the Red Bull, so they don't have as much power as the Honda power unit in the back of the Red Bull has, and that is definitely helping Red Bull quite a lot here, because from the exit of Luffield, which is turn 8 at this circuit, from the exit of that corner up until that final chicane, you're basically flat out. So that's why we've said plenty of times in the past that this is basically become a power circuit now, because you're on throttle, especially in qualifying, for so long, in the second half of the lap especially. And that's definitely giving Red Bull a further advantage there. But yeah, Mercedes are not looking good at all. If I was to predict now what will happen to them, I'd have to say, yeah, at best, second and third. I just don't see how they're going to get pole position. I just don't see it. I don't see what is in the way of Max Verstappen and pole at the end of the day. That's just what I think. Max is too confident. He's got too much momentum behind him. So if the Red Bull team, and this track, it's not like it doesn't suit the Red Bull car. I mean, there's only 4 or 5 corners on the circuit where it maybe doesn't suit the Red Bull as much as the Mercedes does, and the rest of the corners, it's at least equal, if not in Red Bull's favour. So yeah, I think for Mercedes, it's not looking great. Not looking great. But if they can get second and third, and then just try their best to capitalise on possibly some chaos in the sprint qualifying race, and hope to the gods that Verstappen has some kind of issue that means he'll have to start at the back of the race on Sunday, then, at least they'll be able to somehow that way claw back something points-wise against Max Verstappen. But in a way, for Mercedes, I will say this, it's actually beneficial for them that we have the sprint qualifying race this weekend, because if it was just a normal weekend, I wouldn't be saying the Grand Prix's over, because it's not. Because you never know what Hamilton and Mercedes can do. They've done so many great things over the past few years. But without that unusual element, I guess you could say, if that wasn't there this weekend, then I think Mercedes would almost be halfway defeated this weekend. Because again, the single lap pace between Verstappen and the Mercedes is just, it's too big, way too big. And yeah, I think realistically, pole position isn't quite there for them. They're going to have to hope, really, that Max Verstappen beats himself. And talking of Verstappen, I do think Verstappen will get pole position, because he is just too good right now. And when I say pole position, I of course mean pole position for the sprint qualifying race, even though I've been notified that if he hasn't, or if he, even if he gets pole in this session, it will not count as a pole position. If he wins, though, the sprint qualifying race, that will count as a pole position. Which I don't really agree with, but there you go. But yeah, Verstappen, he's going to get pole. I'm certain, absolutely dead certain about it. Just too quick. And from what I saw in practice, yeah, maybe Mercedes are running a bit more fuel, even though I don't believe that's the case, because if you look at the amount of consecutive laps both teams were able to do, they both were kind of doing the same. I just don't believe Mercedes are sandbagging to that extent. I just don't believe it. I don't believe that at all. Yeah, Max Verstappen will get pole. Sergio Perez, though, he is going to play a massive factor in this session. If he can get ahead of the two Mercedes, and then in the sprint quali race hold them up and finish ahead of them, with Verstappen, of course, winning, then it would be, again, a massive factor towards Max Verstappen possibly winning the World Championship later this year. So I think, yeah, Perez, got to look out for him. I think he'll play a massive role in this session, and in terms of, viewing this session through the lens of the World Championship battle. I think, yeah, again, Sergio Perez will play a massive factor. Also, look out for Valtteri Bottas, because Bottas has out-qualified Hamilton here at Silverstone in 2 of the last 3 races here at the British Grand Prix. So, look out for him as well. But definitely advantage Red Bull. Definitely advantage Red Bull. We'll have to see, though, if they seize on that. And now let's get into Ferrari, of course, congratulating their fellow Italians on the great triumph of winning the European Championship last Sunday in I have to say, a very well-deserved victory, because they were clearly the better team and the best team in the tournament. So congratulations to them. Can they capitalise on all that spirit that the Italians have showed in the UK in the last week or so? Probably not. Yeah, they looked good in practice, but I don't think realistically they're going to be qualifying 3rd or 4th on the grid. I think realistically the best they can do is like a 6th and 7th, say, with both cars. I still think you get the AlphaTauris in there, especially Pierre Gasly, so don't count them out. But they're looking strong, Ferrari, and as long as both drivers are on it and don't get held up, make mistakes, the usual things to avoid, really both cars should be in the top 10, because it looks as though they do clearly have the pace for that. So hopefully, from their point of view, they can do that. And they look to me, Ferrari, to be over a single lap about level, say, with McLaren. Probably on race pace, though, it's probably clearly in McLaren's favour. But I think on pure qualifying pace, they're about level with McLaren. So it's going to come down to really the drivers in terms of who wins that battle in the midfield. Probably be Lando Norris, because Lando Norris is probably, he's driving the best he has in his entire career, and he's probably the best driver of the season so far overall. The only person I could say has been better is the championship leader, Max Verstappen, who, if people were to say he's been better than Norris, I'd have no problem with that, because Verstappen also has been very, very great. But yeah, Ferrari, I think they'll definitely be in there. Looking pretty good over a single lap, but I will say that maybe not in the sprint qualifying race they'll suffer this problem, but I think definitely on Sunday, if it's a very hot Grand Prix, which we are expecting, and tyre wear will be a massive factor in what happens in the race, I do think they are going to struggle a lot in the race. And they did to a certain extent last season, I think, at this track with the tyres. So really need to get as best a position in this session, the sprint qualifying session, before the race to try and mitigate what's going to happen in the race, I feel. I know in Austria, yes, they did well, but I do think that's because at the Red Bull Ring, the tyre wear isn't really as bad as it is, say, at Paul Ricard or here at Silverstone, because there isn't that many long corners. I mean, you've only got, 3 long corners at Austria. Here you've got, trying to think, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, about 7, maybe 8 long corners. So yeah, I think Ferrari will definitely struggle a lot more so in the race, but qualifying should be pretty decent. For McLaren, this man on screen, Lando Norris, should be the highest placed runner out of what you would call the midfield, but I'm not sure anymore we can call this guy a midfield driver or a midfield runner, because in the last few races, he cannot stop finishing in the top 5. So you'd have to say he's about there to be in the top 3 or 4 on the grid, and definitely there in contention with the 2 Mercs and Sergio Perez. Again, given the speed he showed in practice earlier, we'll look out to see what he does, but again, the speed from him is incredible. The McLaren pace, I will say again, over a single lap is improving. It's still not quite there yet, but it is improving. But still, clearly, I think they have the best race car from any of the midfield teams. And really, overall, I think are still the strongest looking midfield team in all aspects. And yeah, Norris, I think, will be definitely top 5. Don't know exactly where he'll be in the top 5. Don't think it'll be pole position. I don't think that at all. But I think definitely top 5 in this session today. For Daniel Ricciardo, he has got to get into the top 10. There is no excuses. If he qualifies outside the top 10, I'm sorry, that's a poor performance. Unless, of course, something goes wrong, like a car failure or being blocked massively, which not really blocking around this track is not really that big of an issue. So I don't see that being an issue. So yeah, Daniel Ricciardo's got to get in the top 10. And honestly, I would say, given the speed of the McLaren as of late, and given Daniel Ricciardo in the past here has been pretty quick, he's got to really be getting in the top 8 on the grid. Say between 6th and 8th. That's really got to be his aim. And if I was McLaren, and given how good Norris has been as of late, and how many points he's been scoring, and how well his qualifying has been as of late, I would be disappointed if Ricciardo, even if he got into the top 10, I'd be disappointed if Ricciardo could only manage 10th, for example. If he could get 8th, that'd be pretty good, considering Norris is probably going to be at worst 5th or 6th. So yeah, Ricciardo has got to get into the top 10 at the very least, and yeah, top 8, because the race pace is there for McLaren. The problem with Ricciardo is he just can't get qualifying right in that car to, be doing what Norris is doing. Because I think if Ricciardo over a single lap could have that gap between him and Norris on lap time, Ricciardo wouldn't be that far behind in the championship. As far behind, definitely not as he is right now. Would have scored way more points than he has. So, yeah, Ricciardo's got to do better, and hopefully he does in this session. And I think he will. I'm just not entirely sure whether he will get in the top 10, because there are some very competitive cars out there, such as the Aston Martin team. And maybe not Lance Stroll, because I think Lance Stroll, if you look at his history around Silverstone, he probably won't be the strongest driver at Aston Martin, because he's never really had a good weekend considering the pace of his car that given year. He's never really had a good weekend at Silverstone. So Lance Stroll, I don't think is really going to feature that strongly. I think he'll probably get knocked out in Q2. Sebastian Vettel, though, has kind of a love-hate relationship, I think, with this circuit in terms of his results. Some years he's very good. Some years he's, just off of it. He's definitely a lot better in the races here at Silverstone than he is in qualifying, because if you look at his performances in qualifying, say since 2014, I think in 2014 he outqualified his teammate, but in 2015 and 2016 as well, and 2017, Raikkonen outqualified him when he was his teammate at Ferrari. And then 2019 and the 2 races at 2020, Leclerc outqualified him as well. But in the races, Vettel is a lot stronger here, historically speaking. So I think, again, Vettel will be the strongest driver from Aston Martin, but because he's not really had the single lap pace historically around this circuit on a consistent basis, I'm just not sure whether he'll get in the top 10. He could, but it's really a 50-50. I could see him qualifying 9th. I could see him qualifying in 12th. It's going to be that close. With, say, Gasly, Tsunoda himself, Ricciardo, the Alpines as well. Don't count them out. So, yeah, it's hard to say with Vettel, but I do think, though, especially given that they do have Aston Martin such great tyre life, especially on the race on Sunday, I think they'll be very strong on Sunday. Very, very strong. And if they, ideally, they should be qualifying outside the top 10 or starting the race outside the top 10 so they can start the race on the tyre they want to, because I think they'll be so strong on Sunday, especially as well with the straight line speed they have. But yeah, Vettel, I'm going to say he'll be on the cusp at the very least, but I'm not sure whether he will actually get into the top 10. Be very close though, as I said. With especially this team, as I said a moment ago, AlphaTauri, didn't look quite as quick in practice one as I thought they would do, because you would think this circuit with the power unit they have, you would think this track would have suited them to go a bit better than P11 and P12, but then again, Pierre Gasly did not do a soft tyre run, the 2 Ferraris did, and so did Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin, so there is that. There is that, and you never know, if Gasly goes on the soft tyre and bangs in a great lap, he could easily end up 7th or 8th, because we've seen it so many times, haven't we, in the last year and a half, when Gasly, even when he's not looking especially special, say a certain weekend, still manages to bang in a great lap and end up qualifying in a very strong position. And I have to say, his qualifying this season has been that of a top runner. It's been as good, if not better, than even Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. So, yeah, Gasly's been just brilliant. And I think Gasly, in this session, I think Gasly will get into the top 10 because his single lap speed is too good. And I think the AlphaTauri overall has enough with him in the car to get into the top 10. So, say out of the midfield runners, I mean, of course, you're going to have the 2 Mercedes and Red Bulls. And then I think you'll have the 2 McLarens, 2 Ferraris, and then, of course, that leaves only 2 spots remaining. One of them, I'd say, is Gasly, or going to be Gasly, and the other one, I'm going to go for Sebastian Vettel, but I think it'll be very close, again, between Gasly, Vettel, Tsunoda, Alonso, Ocon. Those are going to be the drivers, I think, very close on the cusp of either getting knocked out in Q2 or getting into Q3. And for Tsunoda, watch out for him as well, because he has raced here before, and he definitely is a lot more confident now than he was a few races ago. And again, he's raced here before, so he has experience. And given what we've seen so far this weekend, I think Yuki Tsunoda definitely going to be strong for AlphaTauri in this Grand Prix. Now, go to the final couple teams. Alpine, looking about where I thought they would be. They're close to getting in the top 10, but they're also looking like they're, just outside of it as well. They're just on that cusp again of 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. They're in that very intriguing close fight with, say, Aston Martin and AlphaTauri as well. I just think ultimately they won't be able to get it because I just don't think they have enough of a car to do it. I don't think this circuit really suits their car that well. There are slow corners here, which of course their car does like quite a lot. Fernando Alonso has been good here in the past, which will help his performance. I mean, it wasn't great in practice one, but he did do a lot of running on the hard compound tyre, which does explain why he was so far down. But I just think Alpine don't quite have enough of a car say, compared to AlphaTauri and Aston Martin, to really be strong at a circuit like this. So I'm afraid, if you're an Alpine fan, I don't think it'll be that great of a session. Hopefully I'm wrong. Alonso, of course, has made a great habit of getting into the top 10 in the last few races. Of course, except for last weekend, where he was horribly blocked by Sebastian Vettel. He would have got into the top 10 anyway, though. And he did actually score points, P10, in the race on Sunday. But Alpine are close, but not quite there. And Alfa Romeo are, I'd say, a step back from that. I think they can definitely get both cars into Q2. I mean, I don't think Kimi Raikkonen will get into Q2 because his qualifying is just pathetic. It's really bad, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to get better ever again, considering he's, 40 years old almost. So, yeah, I don't see Raikkonen getting into the second part of qualifying. Giovinazzi, I think he'll probably be between 13th and 15th, which is normally where he's been qualifying as of late. Yeah, I think Giovinazzi will be up there. And yeah, I think it's going to be the same story for Alfa Romeo, where they've got the good race pace, but just no real single lap pace. And for Williams, they did actually, in the mid part of practice 1, they did show some strong pace, but then I think started then to focus on the collecting data for the race on Sunday. We're doing some runs on the medium tyre, hard compound tyre and stuff like that. Also, Russell's left-hand mirror had a crack in it, so his car wasn't exactly at its finest, in its finest condition, so there were some issues for Williams in practice, but I think Russell will get into the second part of qualifying because it's his home race, and we've seen at basically every Grand Prix that Russell, he gets so much out of that car that just really isn't there, that, you know, he ends up consistently qualifying in Q2 to the point now where we expect it. Well, we really do. And I'll be honest, considering how poor Williams were a couple years ago, I never thought we'd really get to that stage where we'd be expecting Russell to get into Q2 every week. But that's the way it is. But we are now 2 minutes, guys, away from the session beginning. And current conditions at the track, it's still a clear sky, 25 degrees air temperature. The track temperature has dropped, but is still very hot, 40 degrees. Track temperature, and the wind speed has climbed about 0.7 kilometers an hour, so the conditions are around about the same as practice earlier, just again about 3 or 4 degrees cooler on the track temperature than it was earlier on, but still I have to say very hot. I mean, it's almost 6 o'clock UK time, and for it to be that hot still is quite, I have to say, amazing. Yeah, I've never known it be that hot at 6 o'clock in the evening in this country. I mean, they are, you know, Silverstone is in the east coast, basically, of England, so it's always going to be very hot in the southeast. The southeast is by far the hottest part of the UK. If you ever want to see stunning temperatures, or feel stunning temperatures, then go to the southeast of England, because you will feel it, especially in the summer. I remember going to Silverstone about 3 years ago for a, the 6 Hours of Silverstone WEC race, and caught a really bad sunburn there. And it wasn't a really hot day, to be honest, at Silverstone, but compared to where I live, which is in the southwest of England, it just feels like 10 degrees warmer there without, you know, even though the weather was basically the same. So it's so much hotter in that part of the UK than it is really anywhere else. Qualifying will be underway in just a moment. It won't be underway in 5 seconds time. My timer is slightly off, but I'll get all of this ready for you guys. So the order on the left-hand side is the order from practice earlier on. And of course, just to let you guys know, even though qualifying is starting on a Friday, the rules and regulations of this session are the same. The only difference is the only tyre that can be used in this session is the soft compound. And all of the teams have just 5 sets of... I'm just going to get rid of that timer because it's about a second out. Yeah, all the teams have 5 sets of tyres, 5 sets of soft tyres that they're allowed to use in qualifying, because of course they want them to start the sprint race on the soft compound tyre, I believe. Or I think, no, in the sprint qualifying race, I think they're allowed to use whatever tyre they want to. I'm not sure, to be honest, what the rules are still with the sprint qualifying race, and to be honest, I wish it was never happening, but there you go. As we'll now cut to, as the session, by the way, is underway. We're only about 45 seconds in, so you've not missed anything. I will sync up the timer in just a moment, and also I will get the dotted lines out to indicate the cut-off zones in just a moment. As Carlos Sainz there, you can see on circuit on the screen at the moment. And there you go, 17 minutes to go in Q1. And let me add a dotted line quick. Just want to say, though, don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, as I will be live tomorrow, as you guys wanted, as you voted for it. I will be live tomorrow for the sprint qualifying race at 4:15 p.m. UK time. So if you want to find out what happens in the debut of the, just such a, in my opinion, bad idea, you want to see the debut of it, or hear what happens live, then make sure to come along to the stream tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. UK time to, well, try and suffer with me through what could be quite an embarrassing session. It probably won't be as bad as I'm thinking it's going to be, but I don't think it'll be as good as people are hoping for. I can tell you that. As just seeing Lando Norris is out on track now. But yeah, if you want to tune into that tomorrow, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you're notified as to when I go live tomorrow. Again, 4:15 p.m. UK time for that. And as well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And yeah, Gecko just saying in the chat, any tyre allowed in a sprint race. Yeah. And I think in the sprint race, they're probably going to go for the... It'll definitely not be the soft. It'll probably be the medium for that sprint race. Wouldn't be surprised though if anyone went for the hard tyre there in that race, because it would give the most durability, even though it would be slower for the first few laps or so. As Lando Norris has locked up a couple of times on his outlap, trying to slow down and not take any life out of his tyres, but now he starts his first lap in qualifying and goes flat through turn 1, as they all do. Turn 1 is not really a corner anymore, as now through turn 3 and 4, very tricky corners. If you mess those up, then can badly affect your lap. Very important as well in those corners, turn 3 and 4, to have a very stable car front to rear. As he now comes into turn 6 at the end of the first sector. Hits the apex very nicely. Now into Luffield, which is turn 7. And yeah, looks very, very good. Does the McLaren through there as he now comes through the old pit straight into Copse corner, which is also a flat out corner. As Carlos Sainz goes P1 in the Ferrari. As the TV broadcast, they've frozen with Lando Norris is on board, so we can't see he's on board anymore. But he has done a purple middle sector, as Fernando Alonso has just gone up to P1. Scratch that. Antonio Giovinazzi has now gone into P1 for Alfa Romeo. So Giovinazzi is into first. Pierre Gasly second as Norris slides his way through the final corner, and he goes P1 by about just under 0.2 of a second. So Norris is up into first place from Giovinazzi second. And then we've got Gasly in third place. I'll try to update this as quickly as I can. Gasly third, Alonso fourth. You've got Tsunoda up in fifth place. Tsunoda up to fifth. Carlos Sainz is currently in 6th. Then you've got Daniel Ricciardo in P7. Russell has gone 9th, only quicker than his teammate and the 2 Haas so far, out of the drivers that have set a time. As you've got Raikkonen in 8th. And then Russell is 9th, like I said. And then 10th Latifi, and then Schumacher and Mazepin in 11th and 12th. Only 12 times on the board so far. So let me just update those. And finally do Mazepin. There you go. The 12 times on the board so far. By the way, apologies if during this stream you see, with a slideshow, if you see a lack of pictures compared to normal. The reason being is because we haven't had enough running, therefore enough pictures come up on the internet for me to collect them to put in a slideshow. So sorry about that, but of course over the weekend there'll be more and more as the weekend unfolds, as Lewis Hamilton now begins his first flying lap of qualifying with 12 minutes to go in qualifying 1. And I've just seen that I've put the dotted line in the wrong place. There you go. In between 15th and 16th. So yeah, anyone at the end of Q1, if anyone's new to qualifying in Formula 1, anyone below that dotted line, the bottom 5 there you can see, at the end of Q1, if it remains that way, which it won't, then those 5 will be knocked out of Q1 and will start the sprint qualifying race in those positions, as Lewis Hamilton does do a purple first sector. Now he comes through to the middle sector and is already 1 second up on Lando Norris after the first 2 sectors. So definitely Mercedes showing a lot more pace in this session than they showed earlier on today, as Perez has gone up to first. Now Valtteri Bottas goes up to first, but Lewis Hamilton will now go up to first by 0.3 of a second. Hamilton on a 27.1, but that is not as quick as Verstappen was in practice earlier. Verstappen did a 27.0, so Hamilton will have to go quicker than that in this session later on, but it is Hamilton in first place, and then Valtteri Bottas is up into second. Let me just update that. There you go. Charles Leclerc is in third position at the moment for Ferrari. Good first lap for the Monegasque driver. Sergio Perez, by the way, Max Verstappen is now on his first flying run of the session. So Perez is up into 4th. Yeah, Gasly goes 5th for AlphaTauri. You got Norris then 6th, and then now Norris has gone back into P5 as Max Verstappen is 1/4 of a second almost up on Hamilton so far in this lap. And he's done a purple middle sector as he flies through now Stowe Corner. And looking very good as Verstappen into this chicane. No problems at all. Very clean exit. Oh no, got that wrong. It was not a clean exit. Lost a bit of time on the exit there, but didn't really lose any time in the final sector as he goes quickest by 0.4 of a second on a 1:26.7. Max Verstappen goes into P1 as he, normally does at the moment in Formula 1. So Verstappen up into first place from Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Gasly. Russell has gone up to 8th in the Williams, which is a very strong effort for him. And then you got Yuki Tsunoda in 9th, Giovinazzi 10th, Alonso 11th, Ricciardo 12th, as Sebastian Vettel actually jumps up to 10th place in the Aston Martin. Vettel up to 10th, that pushes Giovinazzi to 11th, Alonso 12th, Ricciardo 13th. Latifi 14th. Sainz is in 15th. And then in the drop zone at the moment, you've got Kimi Raikkonen, no surprise there. Lance Stroll is 17th. And then you've got Schumacher, Mazepin and Ocon. Ocon is currently, though, I can tell you, doing a lap. He's coming through now, turn 8, and he's now on the old pit straight, heading towards Copse Corner. And given his speed so far this weekend, you'd think, given where everyone is so far in this session, he'd go around 10th place. We'll see. Ocon hasn't really, though, ever gone well around this circuit. Definitely not as well around this circuit as he has done, say, at the Red Bull Ring. So I'm not really expecting anything that big from Esteban Ocon in this session. As he comes into the final chicane now. As Carlos Sainz is on an improved lap. And Sainz will probably go up to about 6th or 7th place with his current lap. As Ocon actually, talking of 6th, Ocon goes up to 6th. Brilliant lap there by the Frenchman. So Ocon with a brilliant lap there to get himself right into play. Carlos Sainz goes P4 on a 127.6. About half a tenth quicker than his teammate Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, though, is on an improved lap. So we'll see what Leclerc can do. As Leclerc on the exit of turn 17, losing the rear end massively. And cost himself big time there. It's not that big of a deal, though, because they are 4th and 5th at the moment, the two Ferraris, as Antonio Giovinazzi goes 7th for Alfa Romeo, and Kimi Raikkonen goes all the way up to P11 in the Alfa Romeo. They're looking good. Yeah, in the drop zone, Ricciardo, Latifi, Stroll, Schumacher, Mazepin, as Fernando Alonso goes from 15th to P4. In the Alpine. I'll say the track evolution is massive at the moment. And currently it's Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Giovinazzi, Ocon, Norris, Gasly, Raikkonen, Russell, Tsunoda, Vettel. Those are the 15 that are getting through at the moment into the next part of qualifying. Currently heading out of the session, Ricciardo, Latifi, Stroll, Schumacher, Mazepin. Ricciardo and Stroll especially have got to get their act together. Their respective teams, and I think Leclerc might have just clipped a bit too much of the rumble strip with his rear tire, and he did. That's why he lost the rear end a bit, but he is still comfortable and comfortably clear of the drop zone, because I don't think that 11 cars will go quicker than him in the final 5 minutes. I'd be very surprised if that was to happen. As is shown the replay, Verstappen also kind of losing the rear end there, but the Red Bull holding on nicely because it is just simply a better car. And now we look at Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, who is only P11 and is about 3.5 tenths of a second ahead of Ricciardo, who is the highest placed driver in the dropout zone. So as long as Gasly can improve on this lap, then Gasly should get through to Q2. Got to say, Aston Martin don't look anywhere near as quick as I thought they would in this session. 15th and 18th so far. Got to say, though, as well, Stroll, his lap so far has been really poor. He's 6 tenths of a second slower than Sebastian Vettel so far in this session. As Pierre Gasly starts another run in Q1. This might be his final run in Q1. Let's see if he can get his way through. Probably will. As long as he doesn't make a mistake. Comes into turn 3 and 4 now. AlphaTauri looking nicely balanced. No real problems. And now opens the DRS, a small part of the circuit now where Gasly will benefit with his car. And he's about 2 tenths of a second down of Verstappen so far after just Sector 1. Which shows you the difference really between the Red Bull and the AlphaTauri in, say, the slow corners. That's the only real corners in that sector. As Gasly now comes through Copse Corner. Keeps it nicely on circuit. And now will fly through Maggots, Beckett's. And into Chapel as well. No issues on this lap. Driving it very nicely. Ricciardo is currently, by the way, on a lap, and he is currently, after the first sector, about a tenth of a second in on the time he needs. As Gasly now through Stowe hits the apex perfectly there. Very nice front end on that AlphaTauri. Now through the final chicane. No issues at all. And comes to the line, and he goes up into 5th place. That was a brilliant lap from Gasly. It looked so comfortable, yeah, it was so quick. Didn't get the car out of shape once, and again, just so quick still. As, by the way, Mick Schumacher has actually just gone ahead of Stroll into 18th position. So, that is very interesting that Haas are that quick. As Daniel Ricciardo, by the way, is now coming to the line. Can he improve from 16th? Yes, he can, and he goes up to P6 in the McLaren, so that's exactly what he needs, as I've just messed up a couple bits of the order there. Let me just update that Ricciardo is now into 6th place, as Lando Norris actually now pops his way up the order, and he's now up into 3rd, is Lando Norris. So both McLarens should be comfortably through, because they've got about a 7/10 of a second advantage over the people in the drop zone. The people who are going to be desperately trying to get out here are really the 2 Aston Martins. And the people at risk at the moment are, Tsunoda? Or no, not really Tsunoda, but Raikkonen and Russell especially. Just want to make sure I get the order right, though. The top 10, you can see, is absolutely bang on. Then it's Giovinazzi, Ocon, and then Tsunoda is 13th. Then it's Raikkonen 14th, Russell 15th. And in the drop zone with 90 seconds to go in Q1, Sebastian Vettel, Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll, and Nikita Mazepin. And we'll see who will get knocked out here. As I think on this lap, we're going to be watching on the TV broadcast one of the home favourites, Mr. Saturday, who's producing it on a Friday instead, George Russell, who, of course, 2 weeks ago, and even 3 weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring, was definitely one of the standout drivers at that circuit. And let's see what he can do right now in this session as he comes through turn 3 and 4 now. And Russell will now open the DRS as he heads towards the end of the first sector, and his first sector time is very good. It's actually faster by about 0.008 of a second compared to Gasly in the first sector. So very good first sector there for Russell, and uses all the runoff he can on the exit of turn 7. Now heading towards turn 9/Copse Corner, and easily goes through there. Now into turn 10, 11, 12, 13. The best part of the track without doubt. And will very soon, or just about now, open his DRS. And he's only half a second down on Max Verstappen so far. So as long as he completes this lap and doesn't make a mistake, he will go definitely into the next part of qualifying. As Russell now comes into the final chicane. And Kimi Raikkonen has finished up, I think, in 14th place, and someone has gone out of the drop zone. It was Nicholas Latifi, as Russell goes up into 8th position. So Russell is definitely into the next part of qualifying. Also, Antonio Giovinazzi is up into 6th place. Sebastian Vettel goes up to 5th, and Vettel is into the next part of qualifying. So Vettel up to 5th. Ocon goes up to 3rd from 14th. Esteban Ocon all the way up there for Alpine. And now Sergio Perez, who was quite low down, now goes up into 2nd. Does Perez. So Perez up to 2nd. Now Charles Leclerc, who was down in 14th, goes all the way up into 2nd place. The Leclerc up to 2nd. And then Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Latifi, and Schumacher are all out. Let me just update that. So Lance Stroll is up to 15th. So knocked out at the end of the session. Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. Just want to update the rest of the order there. So Lewis Hamilton did go up to second then. Daniel Ricciardo went up into 5th place for the McLaren team. Carlos Sainz also jumped all the way up into 6th place. So Carlos Sainz up to 6th. And then Ocon 7th, Norris 8th, Bottas 9th, Vettel 10th, Alonso 11th, Giovinazzi 12th, Gasly 13th, Russell 14th. Great job by him. Lance Stroll 15th. And knocked out, guys, at the end of qualifying 1. Yuki Tsunoda, very disappointingly, in the AlphaTauri. And then Kimi Raikkonen, Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin. There you go, guys. That's Q1 over and done with. Not really that exciting of a session. Not that big of a surprise. I mean, Yuki Tsunoda going out is a kind of a surprise considering how quick he's been as of late. But he is a rookie still, and he is learning. So we'll give him that. Yeah, Q1 is over, and Q2 will be underway in just a moment. And I'll try and get some stuff ready here for that session. Q2 definitely going to be very close in a few moments' time. It still, though, to me, looks as though Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, definitely the 4 fastest teams. And then after that, close fight between Alpine, Aston Martin, AlphaTauri. So we'll see what happens there, but it's looking close. For those, say, final 2 or 3 positions to get into Q3. And there you go. There is the second dotted line. So anyone in between those dotted lines, 2 dotted lines, at the end of Q2 will be out of the session. Let me just hide that, though. Q2, of course, isn't over. Hasn't even begun. If you are new, it is 15 minutes long, qualifying 2. And we'll be getting underway probably in 2 or 3 minutes' time. Just want to say, though, again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys, because it will be live tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. UK time for the sprint qualifying race for the British Grand Prix. So don't forget to come along to that. Don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and do it there. Whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell. And also, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can to help out the channel in the best way you can. But yeah, for this session, I'd say definitely getting into Q3, like I said, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, I think they're definitely going to get there for... those 4 teams will definitely be in there. Really, it's going to be, in terms of the final 2 positions, between Ocon, Vettel, Alonso, Gasly, possibly Giovinazzi as well. It's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. Also interesting to note how quick Esteban Ocon is, because he hasn't really shown that speed since, what, the Monaco Grand Prix. So, interesting to see how quick he's been so far. And they're just showing on Sky F1 a replay. A couple of drivers going a bit wide on the exit of the final real corner, I guess you could say, at Silverstone. And really just waiting for the next part of qualifying. Got to say that Q1, like I said, wasn't great, was it? Nothing really groundbreaking happened. As they're just showing a replay of Yuki Tsunoda's lap. And Tsunoda, so there you go. They're just showing his mistake. So he got a bit of, his rear end got a bit out of shape through the middle of turn 7, also known as Luffield. So that's why he lost a bit of time there, which definitely would have cost him about 1/10 of a second, because he would have had to correct it and also would have affected his run out of the corner as well. So that's where the time went for Yuki Tsunoda. As Mercedes mechanics getting Lewis Hamilton's car ready, and the driver as well, ready for the next part of qualifying. As I think that's Daniel Ricciardo as well. who, I have to say, looked pretty good in that session. He was down there for a few minutes, but once he set his proper times, he was pretty quick. So, he's got the pace, Ricciardo, just needs to make sure he executes. As long as he does that, then he'll be fine this weekend. He'll be absolutely fine, because he's got the talent. We know that. As the Aussie. As Q2 will be underway in... well, it's underway now, just about by about 2 seconds. Missed the syncing up point. As we've got, about 45 seconds until I'll sync up the timer there. By the way, if anyone's watching and wondering, why am I doing a qualifying watch along on a Friday night? Don't blame me. Blame the FIA. Blame F1. Because, yeah, I don't support this at all. I wish this was on a Saturday instead. But, you know, they run the show. They're basically a regime that can do what they want with the sport. Doesn't mean I have to like it. As Mercedes have sent one of their cars out. I think it's Lewis Hamilton. They've sent both Mercedes out now, as Max Verstappen will probably be coming out to circuit in a moment. And there you go. 14 minutes to go in Q2. Well, we've got most cars now on the circuit. And of course on the soft compound tyres. So again, anomaly in Q2, we always like to note that you know, certain drivers going for the medium, which I think if this was a normal qualifying session, I reckon most cars would be trying to get through on the medium, because the soft compound tyre will just die a horrible death around this track for the race. But because of that sprint qualifying race, what's going to happen, because there's a free tyre choice for that race, is it eliminates the, I guess, excitement or, you know, that other element to the race. So, and as well, I don't know how this affects the race. I'm going to guess everyone's going to start the race on Sunday on a set of worn soft tyres, except for the people who qualify outside the top 10. I'm going to guess that's what's going to happen, because there's no way they're going to start the race on 17-lap old mediums. Even though that would be pretty interesting, I don't think they're going to get away with that. So, yeah, I will say I'm not, so far this day, I am not enjoying the race weekend format. I mean, practice, yeah, it was very fast and furious. And yeah, it was probably a more exciting session than practice normally is, but practice is not supposed to be exciting. It's only practice. It's like expecting a training session in football to be as exciting and dynamic as a football match. As Hamilton, by the way, has started his first lap in Q2. And yeah, again, like I said, I'm not really enjoying the race weekend format, because to me, it's just unnecessary, and I don't see why we need to fix something that's clearly not broken. One of the last things that's broken about Formula One is the race weekend format. I can guarantee that. As Lewis Hamilton does a 27.5 for the first sector. I can't remember Verstappen's best first sector from the last session, so we'll see soon enough whether that is a good enough one. As Hamilton flat now through Copse corner. Doesn't really matter what line drivers take through that, like it used to, because it's just flat for everyone. And Hamilton now through the mid-sector of turn 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. Looks absolutely fine. And does a 102.5 for the lap so far. For Norris, it is a 102 or 103.2. So Hamilton's still pretty quick compared to those midfield runners. Oh, slight bit of oversteer through the mid part of the chicane. And Hamilton struggles his way to the line and does a 1 minute 26.6, which is a tenth quicker than Max Verstappen was able to do in Q1. As Lando Norris goes fourth. The reason it's only fourth is because Valtteri Bottas has gone up into second place. Daniel Ricciardo is now up to third, and then you've got Norris in fourth position, and everyone else so far has not set a time. They will, though, as Max Verstappen is about to complete his first lap in Q2 as Sergio Perez goes up into third place. And Verstappen does go quickest by 1/10 of a second. So it's pretty close up front between Verstappen and Hamilton, but still just about in favour of the Flying Dutchman out there. As Russell goes 7th, but he's the slowest of all the drivers so far to set a time. Well, not anymore, because now Lance Stroll goes behind him in 8th. Yeah, Russell is up to 7th. Sebastian Vettel goes 5th ahead of the 2 McLarens. That's a great lap by Sebastian Vettel, only 0.03 of a second slower than Sergio Perez. A brilliant effort there by Vettel, as Esteban Ocon goes up to 8th. Decent lap. Alonso goes 10th. That's disappointing considering it's Fernando Alonso. That pushes Stroll into the drop zone now. Just Giovinazzi, Gasly and the 2 Ferraris to set their first time of Q2. As Pierre Gasly now comes through the final chicane. And Gasly, where does he go? He goes P9, which is not bad, not terrible. But, you know, nothing special, really, there from Pierre Gasly, who is definitely wanting to improve that quite a bit. Gasly up to 9th. Russell 10th. Giovinazzi goes 13th in the Alfa Romeo. And now only 2 more times we wait to see from the 2 Ferraris. As is a replay of Giovinazzi running a bit too much over the exit curve at Copse or turn 9. And yeah, is miles behind Russell in terms of lap time, 0.6 of a second. I've got to say, Russell's time is very, very good. You know, ahead of Alonso, Stroll and Giovinazzi so far. The only 2 cars that can spoil his day are the 2 prancing horses of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Leclerc brilliantly there gets a slipstream from Alonso, I think, and that will really help his lap. Probably help him by about a tenth and a half with that slipstream there. As Leclerc now comes into the final chicane and doesn't lose the rear end this time and comes to the line and goes P7, which is not great. Could have been better. And Carlos Sainz now comes to the final corner, drifts his way just like his father through the final corner, and he now goes P7 just ahead of teammate Charles Leclerc. So, with 7 minutes to go in Q2, it is Max Verstappen P1 by a 1/10 of a second from Lewis Hamilton 2nd. And then Bottas 3rd, Perez 4th, Vettel 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Sainz in 7th, Leclerc 8th, Norris 9th and Ocon 10th. In the drop zone, and desperately needing to get out with just under 7 minutes to go, Gasly, Russell, Alonso, Stroll and Giovinazzi. I'd say realistically, the only drivers I can see getting into the top 10 are Gasly and Alonso. I mean, Russell, yeah, he's P12 at the moment, but he is in a Williams. I'm not expecting miracles. As Leclerc heads back to the pits. And it's hard to say if Ferrari are safe with their lap times. I mean, Leclerc is almost 0.3 quicker than Gasly, who's P11, but Gasly could easily find that time. So I'd say the 2 Ferraris will have to go out again. I'd say everyone except for the top 3 will have to go out again for the final part of qualifying. I don't think they'll be able to get away with staying in the pits, because I think the lap time gain here will be enough probably to push the Ferrari cars down towards those people in the drop zone. Got to say though, Lando Norris only 9th, Ricciardo 6th. I mean, Ricciardo's not that much quicker. He's only, what, a 1/10 and a quarter quicker than Norris at the moment. But that is surprising to see that Ricciardo is, looking that good. Good to see, though, because, this is what we want to see. I mean, if Norris can get up there and be on podiums, you can be damn sure Daniel Ricciardo can do the same. And as soon as he gets used to that team, and eventually he will, I have no doubt about it, he will get used to that team, and I think, as long as McLaren keep progressing like they are, I think, will be a success with that team. I absolutely believe that. So, it's good to see that he is improving, and I think definitely you can see in the last 3 or 4 races, there is improvement definitely coming from Daniel Ricciardo, without doubt. And if he was to qualify in 6th, for the sprint qualifying race, that would be a great effort. It really would. As we wait now for the final runs in Q2, as nobody currently on the circuit, and we await the beginning of action as Carlos Sainz only about a couple hundredths of a second clear of his teammate Charles Leclerc. Got to say, the best performance though so far in this session has got to go to Sebastian Vettel. He is 0.7 of a second quicker than his teammate in this session, and in 5th, and again only 0.03 of a second away from Perez, only 0.6 of a second away from Max Verstappen, who's P1. By the way, again, it is so great to see every seat with a bum on it. Great to see such a packed crowd and normality resuming, even though it probably means we're going to be in lockdown in 6 weeks anyway, given the worsening of cases. I mean, I've just seen today that we've gone above 50,000 cases in the UK for the first time since, the end of December, start of January, so yeah, probably going to be in lockdown in 6 weeks anyway, but it's great to see that, whilst the sun's shining and we're allowed by our grandmasters to breathe air and be humans, it is good to see that there are so many people engaging in such. As Lewis Hamilton is out on track now, so is Verstappen and Bottas, and, well, everyone will be coming out on track for one final run. I think, though, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, because there's only 5 sets of soft tyres, this lap will only be a warm-up lap, really, for what they're going to do in their first run in Q3. So I'm not expecting this to be a quick run for Verstappen, Hamilton, and Bottas, because, again, they don't really want to be using only 1 set of tyres in Q3. That's the 2 Mercs on their outlap coming through Copse Corner now, and they'll be getting underway with those laps very, very soon. Jeff Thomas makes a great point. No times deleted for track limits. Very unusual. It is. I got so used to it, I actually forgot about that until you said it. So, thanks for saying that and reminding me. As, by the way, interestingly, Perez and Vettel are not on circuit right now. And yeah, I don't think they're going to come out. So Perez and Vettel are going to stay in the pits. Will they get away with it? We'll have to see. I mean, it's too late for them to come out now because they'll have to do basically a flat-out lap. So they're not going to come out now. So Perez and Vettel are going to remain in the pits and hope to God that everyone below them doesn't go quicker than them. We'll see what happens there. As Carlos Sainz, who's currently sat in 7th place, starts his final run of Q2. Let's see what Carlos can do. He's not had that many great qualifyings at Silverstone before. I think he got knocked out here. I think 2018 he got knocked out in Q1 here. And then 2019 he qualified in 13th or 14th place. And he had a pretty poor qualifying, I think, in the 70th anniversary Grand Prix as well. He's always been a lot better on the race day here than he has over a single lap. So it's surprising so far to see him so strong, but does also indicate that this guy is improving all the time, and I think has been Carlos Sainz. just under the radar the entire season. He's been very strong, and I shall remind people, he's only 2 points behind Charles Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship. And Leclerc is supposed to be the star boy of Ferrari, who's going to lead the team forward to World Championships. Well, don't count out Carlos Sainz, because he could easily be the man, as Sainz is only about 0.2 of a second down of Verstappen so far on this lap. So Sainz should go up into, say, 4th place with this lap, as Q2 is now over. Who, though, will get through into the final part of qualifying, as Bottas does improve his time and go 3rd. Hamilton does a brilliant final run and goes P1 on a 26.0. Carlos Sainz goes up to 4th place, as Gasly goes 10th in the AlphaTauri. Not sure that will be enough, as Leclerc now goes 5th in the Ferrari. So Charles Leclerc up to 5th. Giovinazzi up to 14th. Here comes Lance Stroll to the line. He remains 15th. Pretty poor qualifying, but we saw it coming. Norris stays 9th. He's at risk there. As well, not anymore, because Ocon is out in P11. That's disappointing for him. Alonso gets into the top 10 for the moment. Russell will now come to the line. And Russell gets into the top 10 at his home Grand Prix. Brilliant job by Russell. He actually didn't just get into the top 10. He went 7th with that lap. Brilliant by Russell. Let's update that. So Russell up to 7th. The two McLarens just about sneaking through. And Alonso was 11th. And then, let me just read out the rest of the order, though. So, finishing in Q2, Hamilton 1st, Verstappen 2nd, then Bottas, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Russell, Vettel, Ricciardo, Norris. In terms of talent, that is a very stacked top 10, I have to say. And then, knocked out in Q2, here at Silverstone, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Lance Stroll. But what a brilliant effort by Russell and the Williams to get that high up. And with that great lap he did, you never know, he could end up qualifying even higher than just 10th place in Q3. He's doing so great now, we might even start expecting him to qualify in the top 10. As Williams, I will say they are benefiting quite a bit from the new rules about development tokens, where the lower down in the championship you finished the year before, the more time you get to develop in the wind tunnel, which will benefit Williams probably in the next 2 or 3 years to, claw their way back up the grid. And I think we are seeing that this season, as Russell goes from strength to strength. And disappointingly for Alpine, both cars are knocked out in 11th and 13th, as the final part of qualifying should be getting underway in about 3-4 minutes time. So let me just get the stuff ready. So there you go. And of course, Q3 is 12 minutes long. And we've got a very interesting battle on our hands. I'd say Bottas is looking pretty comfortable for 3rd, but the battle for pole position is going to be very, very close. I keep saying pole position because in my mind, qualifying, that's what we're doing it for. But technically, this is not pole position, even though I don't care. It is pole position to me. The battle for pole, Hamilton Verstappen looks very close right now. Hamilton is driving very well, and he's got to be driving really at his best if he's going to get P1 in this session. And then the two Ferraris, have got to say, look very quick, if not quicker than the two McLarens in this session. I will say as well, Norris, I think, surely can improve on what he's done so far in this session. Russell, will look out for him and what he can do. And also look out for Sebastian Vettel, because Vettel, remember, like Perez, did not do a final lap. So they've saved a lap on, their tyres. So that means Vettel and Perez will both have 2 fresh sets of tyres, and will be better off with their tyre allocation for the final part of qualifying here. So that's great news for them. And again, look out for Sebastian Vettel, because before those final runs, he was up in 5th place and very close to being in 4th. So we'll see what he does. But right now, we are Just patiently waiting for Q3 to get underway here. Abshir Ahmed says, this is pole, mate. Screw whatever they cook up tomorrow. Absolutely. Fuck it. This is pole position. Couldn't give a fuck what they say tomorrow is. Winner of the shittest idea, probably. And I will say, in a way, I am looking forward to watching the sprint race because I'm just hoping it'll just be a glorious failure, which I think it will. As now, they're just showing on Sky F1 a replay of part of Russell's lap that got him into the top 10. And, well, if there's any doubt as to whether George Russell should be in a Mercedes, I think that's been eliminated now, because for him to get 7th in qualifying so far in a Williams, I mean, how can you deny him? How can you deny him that he, deserves a seat at Mercedes? The only thing really preventing it is, Mercedes want to keep Bottas because he's a useful tool for them, which is not a bad thing. I can understand why Mercedes would want to keep Valtteri Bottas, but if you want the best driver lineup possible, I don't see why they wouldn't put Russell in that car for next season. But I still don't think they will put him in the car. I have to clarify. I still think they will go for Valtteri Bottas because he's reliable, and it's kind of similar to back in the days where Ferrari had Schumacher and Barrichello. Ferrari were never going to drop Barrichello, from Ferrari, for example, because he was such a great number 2 driver for them and was so useful for them. That the only way he left was him forcibly leaving because he was sick of being that, being in that role. So I could easily see Bottas continuing with Mercedes for quite a long time. And if Bottas doesn't get a seat at the team, wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a seat at the team. Never mind that. Let's say he doesn't get a seat in Formula 1 period. I wouldn't be surprised if Valtteri Bottas ended up as being a tester reserve driver. Wouldn't be surprised if he got that role at all. As just want to try, if I can, and get better pictures back on screen of some drivers who are actually going to be contesting pole position here, because it's not really accurate to be showing the Haas cars on screen when we're in Q3. Something Haas F1 are allergic to. Success. They just update that. There you go. As Q3 will be underway in just a moment. And Lewis Hamilton was fastest in Q2 as Q3 is underway now. Just about missed the syncing up point yet again. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton quickest on a 1:26.0. 0.3 of a second quicker than Max Verstappen. I'll be interested to see whether Verstappen can bounce back from that. I'm sure he can, because it's not like Verstappen put in a poor lap. Maybe just wasn't pushing maybe as hard as he is planning to in this session. Just clear my throat there for you guys off mic, as we'll be underway in a few seconds. Oh no, we are underway, but I'm just going to say we're going to sync up the timer in right now. There you go. 11 minutes to go in Q3, and because they only have 5 sets of tyres, I don't think these first runs are really going to be that representative. Because many of the drivers have already used a lot of set of tyres. So this is not going to be a flying start, I fear, to Q3. as there are teams getting ready with their cars. Sergio Perez, it looks as though, is about to come out on circuit in a Honda-powered Bull. No cars currently on circuit with 10 minutes to go in qualifying. And now the cars come out. Perez, Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, I think Verstappen as well, and the two Ferraris I think have come out on circuit too. And Lando Norris. So everyone now piling onto circuit. We'll see what Russell does in the Williams, because he might stay in the pits and wait for these lot to do their first runs and then go out whilst they're in the pits, which is normally what Russell has done in Q2 before. Try and get himself up there. We'll see if he does that again. It appears that he is going to do that again because he's not yet come out on circuit when Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Vettel, Ricciardo, Norris have all come out on track. As the Mercedes cars and I think Max Verstappen are at the very back of the pack of these cars. And this first lap, again, will be interesting to see with the Verstappen, with Hamilton doing the fastest lap of the weekend so far, 26.0, whether Verstappen can beat that straight out of the blocks in this first run. Because if he can, then it does show that he definitely has the pace and that Hamilton is going to find it very hard to beat him. But if Verstappen cannot go quicker than a 26.0 on this first run, then it definitely hands the advantage to Lewis Hamilton, who, you know, will know that he can go quicker if Hamilton is still slower, say in the first run at least of Q3. As Verstappen now coming through the mid-sector, now up to the final sector. And Verstappen, it appears we're going to be watching on this lap. As Verstappen will, in a moment, come through Stowe Corner on his outlap to get things going for himself. As Norris is about to start, I think that is Norris, about to start his first run in Q3. Now Bottas will start his first run. And now Lewis Hamilton will. And now Max Verstappen will. As Verstappen rounds the final real corner, turn 17, now to turn 18, and starts his lap. So let's see what the Red Bull driver, the leader of the World Championship, can do. Flies through the flat out turn 1, which is effectively now a kink on a straight. Now through turn 3 and 4. Car looks well balanced. No problems with that so far. Got to say as well, the Red Bull compared to the Mercedes, a lot more comfortable on the bumps and curbs relatively this season. And definitely on the exit of corners looks a lot stronger than the Merc does. Even though the Mercedes is still very, very good. As Hamilton is already on the pit straight, or the old pit straight, sorry. And now flies through Copse Corner. Verstappen now flies through Copse Corner. Hamilton did do a purple first sector. Verstappen was only green in the first sector as Carlos Sainz goes into P1. And now Sergio Perez goes P1 on a 26.8, which is not great from Perez, as Charles Leclerc goes up to second. Now Daniel Ricciardo goes second. Great lap from the Aussie. So Ricciardo up to second. Now Norris goes up into second positions. Bottas goes quickest. Hamilton now goes quickest by 0.4 of a second. And Max Verstappen only second in the Red Bull on a 26.3. Almost 0.2 of a second down. Hamilton was actually slower on that lap. Even though he's P1, he's actually slower on that lap than he was in Q2. So Hamilton can go quicker. But can Verstappen go quicker? Seemingly not. Seemingly not. Hamilton, and I'll update that now. Lewis Hamilton in P1 on a 26.1. Verstappen is second on a 1 minute 20 6.3. Valtteri Bottas is in third as well as he's been doing so far this weekend. Bottas on a 1 minute 26.5. Sergio Perez is fourth on a 1 minute 26.8. And then you've got, out of the midfield runners, Norris 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Leclerc 7th, Sainz in 8th, and then Vettel 9th, Russell 10th. Russell, though, with 5 minutes to go in qualifying, has not done a lap so far in Q3. I don't know if he will go out now. I don't know what the situation... Actually, yeah, he is out on circuit. So Russell will be going and doing a lap time in just a moment. But at the moment, it is advantage Lewis Hamilton with a brilliant lap. But, like I said, he can go quicker because that's not his quickest time of qualifying so far. You'd have to say, the advantage seems to be with Lewis Hamilton, who looks as though he has the edge on Max Verstappen. Something we did not see coming after practice earlier, where Verstappen was setting some real, just searing pace out there. And hopefully, the camera will start showing the Williams of Russell on circuit. And there you go. Russell now coming through the final chicane to start his first, maybe only lap of Q3. Done great to get here. As I don't think Vettel actually has set a time. Vettel has dropped down to 10th place already, and Russell, of course, hasn't set a time. No, Vettel has not set a lap time, which is interesting. Yeah, Russell has done great to get through to Q3, but given his speed in Q2, he'll be wanting even more. Because you never know, could start a sprint quali race in 8th or even 7th place, given his speed. And he's about 3.5 tenths down on Hamilton after the first sector. The second sector, though, is where things are a lot closer between all of the cars on the grid. Because again, mostly it's just flat out running. Most of the time difference will come between or from the power unit differences between the respective teams and cars. As Russell flies through turn 10, 11, 12, 13. And his middle sector is about 7 tenths of a second down on Lewis Hamilton. So he'll probably go 8th with this lap, which would be still good because he'll go ahead of Carlos Sainz if he was to do that. He is heading here, Russell, for a very good position. And he comes through the final corner of turn 18 now, and Russell goes P7 actually, ahead of the two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. And if he was to finish there, that would be one of the drives of the season without doubt. And he's not just faster than the two Ferraris, he's clearly quicker. He's 7 tenths quicker than Sainz and 2 tenths quicker than Leclerc. The two Ferraris have got to, get on it now because they're not really that quick. Saying that, they are soon to respond as everybody except Russell is now on an outlap for the final runs in Q3. I don't think Russell will go for another lap because I don't think he'll have the tyre life. Be very surprised if he had the tyre life, to be honest, remaining in that tyre set to go for another lap. As we're not currently seeing the cars on their outlaps. Now we are. And here is Lewis Hamilton coming up to the end of his outlap to start his run to pole position here in qualifying. As Hamilton now rounds the final corner and begins his lap. Like I said, wasn't at his absolute best in his first run here in Q3. Not his quickest time so far, so he can go quicker, but can he actually get that pace out of the car now as he comes through now turn 3 and 4 does Hamilton. And car looks absolutely fine through there. Slightly twitchy on the exit. I've got to say though, even though Hamilton's car at times over the years, you can say looks twitchy on the rear end, especially coming out of corners, that is more so because Lewis Hamilton likes his cars to be that way. He drives with a lot say, looser of a rear end in terms of the rear downforce compared to, say, Verstappen, who likes the rear end to be a lot smoother and comfortable than Hamilton does. As Hamilton has done a purple first sector, a tenth of a second quicker than his personal best first sector. What is Verstappen's first sector like? It is a tenth of a second down. Not quite good enough at the moment from Max Verstappen. We'll see, though, what he can do in Sector 2 and Sector 3, but I fear for Verstappen that it's not going to be enough because Lewis Hamilton is already 0.2 of a second now after the first two sectors. 0.2 as he goes slightly off track on the exit Stowe. Don't know if that will cost him, but he was on. Yeah, he's blown the lap here. He's all over the place out of these final corners. Comes to the line. Fails to improve. Will he regret that? Let's see. Verstappen does not do a personal best middle sector, but he is only 0.07 of a second away from Hamilton here. As I've just seen, Carlos Sainz has gone up to 8th. As Verstappen rounds the final chicane. Can Verstappen here get pole position? Comes to the line now. And no, it is second place. He's 0.75 of a tenth down on Lewis Hamilton. So it's Hamilton on pole for the sprint quali race. Verstappen second, Bottas third, Perez fourth. Charles Leclerc's done very well to go 5th in the Ferrari. Actually, no, Leclerc has been promoted up to 4th. So I'm going to guess that Perez had his time deleted for a track limit violation. So Leclerc is 4th. What a job by Charles Leclerc there. Perez 5th, Norris 6th, Ricciardo 7th, Russell 8th in the Williams ahead of Sainz and Vettel. But there you go. What a brilliant lap by Lewis Hamilton. And again, he could have gone quicker. Without the mistake at Stowe and the final chicane, Lewis Hamilton probably would have gone into the 1 minute 25s. But still, his lap time from earlier on was good enough. And yet, just turned in to the final chicane, and the rear end got out of shape, held it well. I mean, his lap time that he set still was only 0.2 of a second slower than his previous best. But Hamilton there, absolutely brilliant, and now starts on pole position for the sprint qualifying race for the British Grand Prix. But the reminder of the grid now that qualifying is finished, it's Lewis Hamilton who will start on pole, Verstappen second, then Bottas third, Leclerc fourth, Perez, Norris, Ricciardo, Russell, Sainz and Vettel complete your top 10. And then the rest of the order is Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher and Mazepin. But guys, that is it for qualifying, and that is it for this stream. And as I said, I will be live tomorrow at 4:15 PM UK time to witness what could be either a massive mistake or an unfortunate success, the sprint qualifying race for the British Grand Prix. Make sure to come along to that. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that coming tomorrow. Again, I'll be live at 4:15 PM UK time for the sprint qualifying race at Silverstone. And then, of course, live 3 times on Sunday as well. Also, don't forget as well to smash a like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to share just again the channel around. And also, I just want to say thank you guys very much for the support as of late on the channel. And thank you guys as well to coming along to the streams today. I know it's, unusual, 2 streams on a Friday, but that's the way the race weekend format is, and there's nothing obviously I can do about that. Hopefully we don't get this really any more times ever. But that's just the way it is. And yeah, hopefully you'll be along with me for the rest of the weekend. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server. Link below in the description. That's a great place for notifications, my videos and streams. And also, we've got, very active server there. Plenty of people in there. Almost 500 people in there. And again, very active server it is. But guys, until my sprint qualifying race stream tomorrow, which, we'll see how it goes. I don't know what to really expect going into that race. But until then, it's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.